way my Savior leads me, cheers each winding path I tread, gives me grace for every trial, feeds me with the living bread.
All right, welcome back to Chester ARP Church Devotional Podcast. Clint Davis, your host. Today, we're going to read from John chapter 13, beginning in verse 31 through verse 38. This is what John records for us when Jesus has an interaction with his disciples after they celebrated the last Passover meal together. When Judas, had gone out, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and glorify him at once. Little children, yet a little while I am with you. You will seek me, and just as I said to the Jews, so now also I say to you, where I am going you cannot come. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another just as I have loved you. You also are to love one another. By this all people will know that you are my disciples, and if you have love for one another." So Simon Peter says to him, "Lord, where are you going?" And Jesus answered him, "Where I am going you cannot follow me now, but you will follow afterwards." Peter said to him, "Lord, why can I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for you." And Jesus answered him, "Will you lay down your life for me? Truly, truly, I say to you, the rooster will not crow till you have denied me 3 times. Now, this is a moment that is where Jesus is kind of narrowing down his conversation to the things of most importance with the people who are most important to him. And when I say most important to him, I mean most important to him in regards to the fulfillment of his ultimate mission, the growing of his church for his glory, the redemption of mankind through the testimony of his church for his glory. Judas has gone. He's already sent Judas out of the room. And so now all you have left with Jesus in the room, presumably based upon what we read in John chapter 13, are the 11 disciples and Jesus. So the other 11 and Jesus. So there's 12 total. Judas gone, 11 plus Jesus. And now he's getting very specific and very direct when he says to them, now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. He starts talking about how the Son of Man, how he, Jesus, is going to be glorified, and how God will be glorified in his life. If God is glorified in him, Jesus says, in the Son of Man, God will also glorify him in himself. And so they will see the glory of the Son of Man. Now, we're going to read this in a couple weeks when we get to John chapter 17, where Jesus is praying what we know as the high priestly prayer in John chapter 17. And Jesus says, now is the time to glorify your Son. And Jesus is looking directly to the cross, to his own cross. And so when Jesus says now is the time, he means literally within a few hours, as it were, right? Within 24 hours, he's going to be crucified. And in his crucifixion, the glory of God is going to be seen. Paul interprets it in Romans chapter 5, where Paul says that the love of God was made manifest, in that yet while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And so the idea that when Jesus is hanging on a cross, that the Son of Man is going to be glorified in its most in the most clear possible way. There's going to be a centurion. We'll read this, but there's going to be a centurion who says, "Truly, indeed, this man is the Son of the living God." Right? You're going to see in the cross of Christ, everyone there, but those of us who look back on it in eyes of faith in the testimony of the Bible, we see at that moment the character of God made most clearly known. The glory of God, the wonderful display of his character. That's what glory means. The magnificent display of his character in the person of Jesus Christ. And so as Jesus is glorified, the Father will glorify Jesus on his cross, but Jesus also will glorify the Father. He will reveal to us the magnificence of the character of God, and he'll put it on full display as he suffers for you and me, because God is a God of grace and mercy and love and faithfulness, right? And even in his sacrifice of himself, a perfect sacrifice, he shows his perfection off. He shows his holiness off. And so we see that in the crucifixion of Jesus. That's what Jesus is thinking about here. Again, his disciples don't understand what's happening. But he wants them to know as they prepare for that moment, and that they will understand fully once they see him on his cross. They will begin to understand more fully what he means here as he prepares them for it. He says, a little while I'm with you, right? I'm not going to be with you much longer, less than 24 hours. And then I'm going to die. Then after I'm raised, and then after that, 40 days after that, I'm going to ascend into heaven. Where I'm going, so you're less than 40 days now, right? You're right at 40, 42 days, maybe left on earth, less than 50 days of being here on earth with me. But I'm going to be with my Father. You can't go with me. You'll follow me there, right? In kind of a longer view, you'll follow me there when you go. Your life ends and you go to the next life with me. You'll follow me there. Also, in a very shorter sense, I'm about to go to a cross, and then I'm going to the grave, and you can't follow me there. You can't follow me. You will when you die to yourself once and for all when you physically die on this earth. But right now you can't go where I'm going. But I want you to know, right? While you wait for the next step, right, as it were, I want you to commit yourself to loving one another just as I have loved you. So what do we do when we wait? Well, we commit ourselves to loving one another as Christ has loved us. That's a demonstration of our love, a demonstration of God's love in us, a demonstration of our love for God in the way we love one another. And by this, all people will know that you are my disciples. Peter says, well, where are you going? And Jesus says, well, you can't go with me. And Peter says, oh, I can go with you, and I can do it. I will lay down my life. And Jesus says, will you really? Will you really? Before the rooster crows 3 times, you'll deny me. See, Peter's boldness here, his kind of prideful arrogance, I can withstand. I can go with you. Comes out, and we can all do that. We can kind of feel like we can overcome. We can make it happen. We can do it. And Jesus says, no, you can't. No, you can't. And when you try, you're going to deny me 3 times. In a sense, Peter, you can't go with me to that cross. Don't go to me to that high priest's house. You can't go with me through this process. But you're going to try. And so I'm going to go ahead and tell you, as you try, you're going to deny me 3 times. Peter says, never. But of course, we know that he does. And we'll talk about that, the importance of following the Lord, humbly relying upon him. But the call for us in this passage is to love one another, love God as Christ has loved us while we wait to be with him into eternity. You guys have a great day. Find people to love today. Be loving, be kind, be gracious, and show Jesus to the world. See you next time.
You carry me close to your heart, and surely your goodness and mercy will find